After defeating the Heartseeker and bidding Chengxin farewell, you notice a crumpled letter on a desk near a balcony overlooking the treasure chamber. The letter bears a single line, attributed to someone surnamed Chu. "I was born to hate, but you must pity me." The phrasing sounds strange, largely because of an over-literal localization that renders hen as hatred, a meaning the character does possess, but not one that fits this context. It is a direct quotation from the 5th century poet Jiang Yan's Hen Fu, often glossed as an ode on sorrow, where the original line runs, "I am a man born of sorrow, and my heart stands astonied at the sight I behold." In Hen Fu, this line functions as the speaker's act of introspective disclosure. Standing before a desolate field of tombs, he is seized by grief at the brevity of life and the inconstancy of fate. By calling himself a man of hate, he does not mean one who harbors animosity, but someone who apprehends, with painful clarity, an irreparable lack no human striving can overcome. This sorrow need not be confined to meditations on mortality. Hen also marks grief rooted in love foreclosed by fate, most famously in the Tang dynasty poet Bai Juyi's Chang Henge, Song of Everlasting Regret or Song of Endless Sorrow, which recounts the doomed love between Emperor Xuanzong of Tang and his consort Yang Yuhuan, a context closer to the emotional register suggested by the letter in the game. In effect, the message Chu Xingzuan left for Aunt Han should be, "I am a man shaped by a fate of grief. Look upon me, my lover, with pity." For now, you recognize the surname Chu only because it recalls something you once glimpsed in Aunt Han's chamber. To the right, an alcove stands conspicuously bare. A scroll stolen by Tian Ying 3 years ago is missing from its place. A sudden, terrified cry pulls you back into the adjoining room where Aunt Han and Dr. Tian store their masks. It is Dudu, who followed you into the still shore and now sits frozen before the display. The sight stirs fragments of his half-forgotten childhood memories. Long ago, he was brought to blissful retreat by his parents and subjected to the face-changing surgeries that cost him parts of his memory. He was later adopted by Unfated Tian, alongside Yao Yao Yao. When they were younger, Unfated Tian even sought advice, much to his own distaste, from Zhang Wulang on how to deal with a child's night crying. The reply he received was as curt as it was useless. "Mine never had that problem." You leave Dudu to regain his footing and return alone to blissful retreat. Beside the ladder lies a note, laying bare Unfated Tian's secret. She is a woman, and for many years has borne a quiet, unreciprocated devotion to Aunt Han. The note also casts new light on her acerbic distaste for Jiang Wulang. Resentment, perhaps, at being named alongside him in rumor, both spoken of as possible husbands for Han Xiangshun. But this is not what occupies your mind now. As you make for Aunt Han's chamber to test your suspicions about the man surnamed Chu, another thread resurfaces, one uncovered during your venture into the Peace Bell Tower atop Moonvale Mountain, commissioned by Emperor Chai Rong and bound to the Hanging Blade. That same year, Tian Ying stole Aunt Han's surgical tools and scroll. 2 figures clashed within the tower, one wielding willow blades, the other a mo blade favoured by disciples of the Well of Heaven. The tower still bore the marks of their fight, collapsed staircases and deep scars cut into the wood, and amid the wreckage lay a letter addressed to a Jianghu hero named Chu Xingzuan. The letter urged him to keep the water lady occupied, while Tian Ying operated within the still shore. Below, among the debris, lay a torn strip of silk, its embroidered name fragment bearing a resemblance to Aunt Han's surname, another silent confirmation of the water lady's true identity. As the pieces fall into place, earlier, once trivial, memories rise to the surface. The bellkeeper of Harvestfall Village once told you that some townsfolk at Heaven's Pier harbour hostility toward men from the Palace of Annals, a bitterness traced back to the shattering of the Peace Bell Tower's bell, an incident whispered to have grown from personal conflicts between the Hanging Blade and Aunt Han. You recall learning to make crispy pheasant pastry from a local cook once employed by the Palace of Annals. Despite your terrible cooking skills, you eventually ended up with a food stall of your own, where a merchant mentioned that 3 years ago, the same year all these events converge, he had tasted an exquisite pheasant pastry at a banquet in the Palace of Annals, only to discover afterward that it had been laced with a potent sleeping draught. Set side by side, these fragments at last resolve the cause of the bell tower clash, the unhealed rupture between Aunt Han and the hanging blade, and the true identity of the Jianghu hero whom Ruby once encountered atop Moonvale Mountain, Chu Qingsuan. The drawers in Aunt Han's chamber lie in disarray, as though the past itself has been rifled through and left unsettled. In one, you find a willow blade she uses as a throwing dart. In another, loose spirit money for memorial rites, paper offerings meant for the dead, to be burned so that they may reach the other shore. You have long known that Aunt Han once had a brother whose body was never recovered, and the presence of these offerings suggests that she has been visiting his grave again, paying debts that can no longer be spoken aloud. The clue you seek rests in a shard of a broken mirror, its surface etched with the surname Chu. It calls to mind the old saying, "The broken mirror made whole again," a promise of lovers reunited after long separation. Yet here, the mirror remains forever sundered, its missing half lost to time, preserving instead a broken testament, one that echoes in the mysterious voice heard in the Peace Bell Tower and lingers in other traces you have found along your path. A handkerchief that belonged to Han Xiangshun, and a jade archer's thumb ring once worn by Chu Qingsuan. 13 years ago, when the hanging blade first set in motion the operation known as Hidden Swallow, sending Jianghu wanderers who had undergone face-changing surgeries into the Yanyun region to gather Khitan intelligence, Chu Qingsuan stepped forward and asked to go. Han Xiangshun, the water lady, refused to alter the face of her lover, knowing that such a change would efface his name, his past, and send him down a road that permits no return. From that day on, she severed her ties with the hanging blade. They did not trouble her again until 3 years ago, when urgency drove them to dispatch Tian Ying to steal the water lady's scroll and the surgical tools of face-changing. Their design was to lure her away from the still shore with a feast at the Palace of Annals, where pastries laced with sleeping draughts would dull her vigilance. But Aunt Han, honed by years in the Jianghu, saw through the snare at once. As a last resort, Chu Qingsuan was ordered to hold her back, to buy Tian Ying the moments he needed. What followed could not be contained. The encounter erupted into violence, carrying them from the Palace of Annals to the heights of the Peace Bell Tower itself. There, the bell was shattered, its thunderous toll so fierce that it wounded townsfolk throughout the region. Tian Ying succeeded in his mission. Of Chu Qingsuan, however, no word was ever heard again after Han Xiangshun swore that, for the rest of her life, she would never see him again. The next moment, Yi Dao's voice abruptly cuts short your thoughts. Realizing that you are deliberately leading him astray, he chooses to spare you and follows you back toward blissful retreat. Just as he asks after Aunt Han's whereabouts, you are ambushed by a group of Orient Pavilion assassins who emerge from nowhere. They have likely been surveilling the area for some time. Only now, stirred by the confrontation between you and Killerblade, do they make their move, remarking that the water lady is not present. Their plan is to take the two of you captive and use you as bait to draw Aunt Han out, but neither you nor Yi Dao proves an easy target. Yi Dao shatters the rooftop, hauling you upward to launch a counterattack from above. He then repeats the same ruse he once used against you, leaving one assassin alive before feigning retreat with you in tow, allowing the survivor to unwittingly lead you back to their hiding place. The two of you follow him into the wine cellar of Blissful Retreat, where you manage to locate an Orient Pavilion's recently established stronghold. It lies within abandoned tunnels that were originally dug more than a decade ago as hiding places and ambush routes when the Khitan cavalry advanced into the region. As Yi Dao is caught in a trap, you seize the moment to return the teasing he subjected you to earlier, a small retribution for his refusal to explain either the assassin's origins or his reason for seeking out Aunt Han. Carefully navigating the remaining traps in the tunnel, you soon discover that you cannot open the sealed gate ahead on your own. Swallowing your embarrassment, you make use of the stone statue that triggers the traps, leveraging it to lift the barrier imprisoning Yi Dao. Along the way, you press him once more about the assassin's origins. He again avoids a direct answer, offering only a muttered hint that they come from the south, a detail that aligns with the clue that they are connected to the southern Tang, and adds that another group has likely already been dispatched in pursuit of someone else. Beyond the gate, you cannot open alone. Poisonous smoke churns thickly, the result of the enemies burning a toxic flower planted throughout the area. In the central chamber, firelight flickers across a giant abandoned Buddhist statue, its form now choked with the same blossoms. From the shadows, you overhear two assassins muttering that the flames are meant to erase evidence of their failure. Whatever they sought to hatch was lost, and blame must not reach their superiors. Yi Dao surges ahead, as ever striking first. You move after him, cutting down those he leaves behind without pause. In the midst of it, he spares a rare word of praise for your skill and asks whether Aunt Han was your master. The question surprises you. She has never openly revealed herself as a figure of the Jianghu. As you press on, Yi Dao mentions, half in jest, that you should visit Saibei sometime in the future, a hint that he may once have been there. The term Sai refers to fortified passes along the Great Wall, and Saibei, literally north of the passes, denotes the regions beyond it, historically home to nomadic peoples such as the Xiongnu, Xianbei, Turks, Khitans, and Mongols. In the game's temporal setting, however, the situation is more complicated. After Xi Jinping ceded the 16 prefectures of Yanyun to the Khitans in 936, more than 20 years before the events of the game, many Great Wall passes bearing the name Sai were no longer under the control of the central Chinese regimes. As a result, when Yi Dao speaks of Saibei, the term has likely already, much as it would in later periods, expanded southward from its original geographic meaning to encompass the Yanyun region as well. Had Yi Dao ventured into Khitan territory before? And could this be connected to the Northern Vow, given his friendship with Chu Qingsuan and his acquaintance with Zhang Wulang? Scattered hints thus far suggest that he is unlikely to be an enemy of Aunt Han, but you will need more time before the truth becomes clear. In a hall marked as the Cocoon Chamber, iron cages hang from the ceiling, each imprisoning a zombie-like figure. Before you can take it all in, one lunges forward. Yi Dao remarks in disbelief, someone has been hatching the dream puppets, the source of the calamities that ravaged the Jianghu 16 years ago. Even the renowned General Wang Qing died because of them. At the center of the chamber lies a human cocoon, unmistakably like those you have seen before, in hallucinations at the still shore before facing the Heartseeker, and in the depths of the gleaming abyss, where you once found a note from a disciple of sunbutsy, convinced that such a transformation would grant him immortality. Now the pattern is clear. Li Zuo has indeed inherited the path of sunbutsy. As the two of you make your way outward, Yi Dao confirms what you already suspect. The dragon sigil you found at Uncle Jiang's hut is a coded mark of the Orient Pavilion's assassins. The tunnels empty out beneath an abandoned temple, already occupied, as you expected, by men of the Orient Pavilion. Yi Dao notices that the assassins scattered throughout the temple have organized their positions in accordance with the sansai formation. As a result, you cannot simply charge in, or you will be quickly surrounded and pinned down. The sansai concept originates in the Zhouyi, where it denotes the three fundamental elements of heaven, earth, and human. In martial or military contexts, it expresses the principle of coordinated action across three positions, such as upper, middle, and lower roots, or left, center, and right ranks. The word formation here corresponds to the Chinese term zhen, shorthand for zhenfa, a battle formation, exemplified by designs such as the Macedonian phalanx. The historical Sansai formation was a battle formation devised by the renowned Ming Dynasty general Siji Guang, typically composed of just over 100 soldiers, characterized by small, dispersed units arranged in layered depth rather than dense blocks. It was designed in response to the proliferation of firearms, which made tightly packed formations increasingly vulnerable. In wuxia and fantasy traditions, however, the concept evolves beyond troop arrangement into the convergence of supernatural energies and governing principles. It may be understood as a combat system blending martial technique, metaphysical reasoning, and illusionary arts. To break such a formation, one must locate its formation eye, either by destroying its core artifact or key figure, or by overpowering it outright through superior cultivation, meeting skill with sheer force. In this scene, these traits are not yet fully apparent, but they help explain a later development in the narrative, why Qinghe shoots Ruby after she climbs to higher ground. By doing so, she disrupts Qinghe's formation. From your hiding place, Yi Dao tells you that their feud with Aunt Han began the moment she uncovered their secret and severed all ties, retreating into hiding, an account that echoes the note beneath the still shore, which hints that she once walked the same road as the villains. The memory of the cocoons rises once more, those glimpsed in hallucination alongside the phantoms of the Faceless, arranged among stone statues otherwise seen only around the gleaming abyss. The thought will not leave you. Could Aunt Han's singular art of face-changing be bound to the human experiments of sunbutsy and Li Zuo's Orient Pavilion? As you hesitate, Yi Dao gives a curt order. Kill the horse, leave no variables, while he handles the rest, but doubt has already taken root. Still convinced that he stands opposed to Aunt Han, you choose defiance instead, hurling an object that draws every assassin's attention toward Yi Dao. With Yi Dao occupied by the assassins, you force your way into the chamber on the left, following Ruby's voice. There, you free Ruby and the merchant Beard Guang. Swallowing the question of how they came to be here, you ask only whether they have seen Aunt Han. Beard Guang shakes his head, then adds that someone important is being held in the main hall. Sending them for safety, you step into the hall yourself. The captive there is the horse dancer that once travelled with Beard Guang's caravan, the same man who possessed the parasitic creature that drove Fang Shu into aggression at the general's shrine. You try to speak to him, but terror has already unmoored his reason. Mistaking you for an agent of the Orient Pavilion, he breaks free and summons his horse Dalang, the very horse Yi Dao had ordered you to kill. Dalang charges to shield his companion and falls beneath your blade shortly after. Just as you think the fight is over, the horse dancer staggers toward the fallen horse, coughs violently, and spits forth a parasite, forcing it into the horse's mouth before crumbling into dust. Dalang is my life, and I am Dalang's life, he mutters as he dies. Bound by that final act, the horse rises again, twisted, reanimated, and far more vicious than before. You realize then that it is this parasite, with its power to cheat death, that has made the horse dancer a quarry of the Orient Pavilion. As players, you have already seen its effects in the prologue, when the Void King was revived in much the same way. But how does the horse dancer come to possess something held by Li Zuo, the head of the Orient Pavilion? The description in the enemy catalogue holds the answer. The horse dancer was once taken in by the Orient Pavilion, only to be cast aside for his lack of martial talent. Sent to one of the cocoon chambers as fodder for their dream puppet experiments, he proved unfit for the result they sought. Declared worthless, he was abandoned in a potter's field. There, on the brink of death, an old army horse saved him. From that day on, man and horse wandered together until fate delivered them once more into the Orient Pavilion's grasp while passing through Qinghe with Beard Guang's caravan. Ruby and Beard Guang's capture now reveal themselves as little more than collateral damage in the pavilion's hunt for the horse dancer. The second fight with Dalang is far more intense. When you falter, mistaking exhaustion for death, the strike you fail to foresee is cut short by a sudden flash of steel. Aunt Han stands before you, a willow blade in hand, identical to those you found in her chamber and at the Peace Bell Tower. You remind her that Yi Dao has been after her, but her act of driving away the assassins circling him and their interactions afterward reveal that the two are not enemies, but old friends. Returning to your chamber at blissful retreat, it seems you are destined for yet another tongue-lashing. Yet Aunt Han says little. Only then do you notice the bamboo leaf left on her shoulder, a sign that she has visited Uncle Jiang's old hut while you were exploring the still shore and the Orient Pavilion's stronghold with Yi Dao, perhaps related to that she learned of the mysterious man in black who snatched the Zhengguan jade from you. As punishment for sneaking out repeatedly, she orders you to copy textbooks in your room and then leaves. Ruby appears again at just the right moment, telling you that Beard Guang is looking for you. You persuade her, once more, to copy the books in your place, in exchange for introducing her to Yi Dao, the Jianghu hero she knows only from storybooks. Rushing down the stairs, you run into Beard Guang. He asks to borrow a jar of parting tears in exchange for information about the horse dancer. From him, you once again learn of a familiar, alluring woman, this time sighted at a post station to the west, where the caravan had taken the horse dancer. Her shoes were dusted with the same glowing powder found on the dancing horse's hooves, suggesting that she too may have access to the mysterious parasite, or that she had once approached them. From the phrases associated with her, it can only be Xianye. You recall learning from a wandering tale at Heaven's Pier that she is originally from southern Tang, and that she once pursued Yi Dao as he travelled east from the Heisi corridor all the way to Qinghe. It now seems likely that the Orient Pavilion either stumbled upon the horse dancer while hunting Yi Dao, or that the horse dancer never truly severed his ties with them, even after being discarded in a potter's field. Either way, Aunt Han needs to be informed. Aunt Han is chatting with Yi Dao in her chamber. When you arrive, they are speaking about the horse dancer. Aunt Han, however, seems little concerned, remarking that she has no interest in becoming entangled in Jianghu affairs any further. Yi Dao asks her about a certain secret of Jiang Wulang, claiming that it was Chu Tsingxuan who demanded he come to blissful retreat and carry it away. Aunt Han offers no answer, replying only with a note of sarcasm, that if Chu cares so much about this so-called secret, or their grand affairs, he ought to come fetch it himself. Yi Dao does not argue. After a pause, he informs her that Chu Tsingxuan has already perished, along with the others in Blackwater City. Historically, Blackwater City was a military stronghold of the Western Xia, 1038 to 1227, a state contemporaneous with the Song dynasty, located in what is now Inner Mongolia. It is recognized as the best-preserved ancient city site north of the Silk Road and has yielded a wealth of archaeological artifacts from Western Xia, a state that, at the time of the game's setting, had yet to be founded. That said, the site itself may already have existed in the late Five Dynasties and early Song period, though it was likely then only a small regional settlement or fort, not yet possessing its later scale. The developers may have drawn inspiration from the well-known fantasy novel series Ghost Blows Out the Light, in which Blackwater City is reimagined as a lost city buried beneath shifting sands, concealing a vast underground Buddhist temple filled with treasures and secret documents of the Western Xia state. Given the historical reality that Western Xia later often acted as a satellite of the Khitan Liao in its conflicts with the Song, it is hardly surprising that the story surrounding Blackwater City would also be entwined with the Khitans. The news of Chu Tsingxuan's death catches Aunt Han unprepared. Worse still for Yi Dao, she replies that she has no knowledge of what Chu was referring to and tells him to search Uncle Jiang's shack himself. After directing Yi Dao toward the Bamboo Abode, you follow after her. Beyond the graveyard of blissful retreat, by the river's edge, not far from the stone she raised for her brother, Han Jiangshun orders Uncle Zhou to pour out the wine she has kept for the man who will never return. Parting tears, preserved all these years, ever since their paths first parted 13 years ago. You had assumed that she had already broken with Chu Tsingxuan when you learned that she had sworn never to see him again for the rest of her life. Yet it now seems she had never truly let go of the man who remained her comrade and her equal, and yet a lover who refused to stay. She had not expected that her words would so soon be sealed by fate. From her words with Uncle Zhou, you grasp the weight of the news Aunt Han intends to announce at the first jar banquet. Blissful retreat, and all who dwell there are to leave Heaven's Pier, guided by a danger she sensed long before you did. What has unfolded over these past days has only hastened her resolve. Had it not been for Uncle Zhou's reminder of the guests yet to return, and the townsfolk scattered beyond the region. You step forward to comfort her. But when the conversation turns to leaving Heaven's Pier, your longing for the wider Jianghu, your wish to seek Uncle Jiang beyond its bounds, and the weight of her fresh grief, together with her hard-earned understanding of the Jianghu's brutality, collide and open a rift between you. Seeing that her resolve will not bend, you choose to disobey, to slip away once more, and this time for good. Yet, before you depart, Qinghe still holds many mysteries, especially those surrounding Tianying and the Oriat Pavilion's designs, secrets that may yet point to Uncle Jiang's whereabouts. You begin with another letter Chu Tsingxuan once sent to Aunt Han, retrieved from her chamber, hoping that insight into a man bound to the hanging blade and the northern vow may clarify what has been unfolding beyond your sight. Since pressing Aunt Han about her deceased lover would only reopen wounds slow to heal, you turn instead to her closest confidant, unfated Tian, whom you find at Crimson Cliff by the lake. As someone who also harbours feelings for Aunt Han, unfated Tian's reaction is that of a romantic rival to Chu Tsingxuan. She takes the affectionate letter from you, refusing to clarify anything or return it. Then, she asks a favour of her own: help in locating the hidden refuge of Li Zhenzhen, a famed blind swordswoman whose name has long been stained in Qinghe. Rumour has it that Li once slaughtered locals on behalf of the Khitans. Unfated Tian is here to fulfill her duty as a physician, having accepted payment to perform the eye-changing surgery for the swordswoman. Yet your descent into the vast cavern beneath the lake reveals only Li Zhenzhen's body, and a quieter tragedy. 10 years ago, Li Zhenzhen was rescued by Tianying in Wraith Village. Thereafter, she rose to renown in the Jianghu as the blind swordmaster known as the Lunar Goddess. In those years, she befriended another local legend, Feng Nengzi, one of the 8 heroes of Hedong, who, drawing on teachings learned from a Mohist hill master, helped her carve out the hidden dwelling beneath Crimson Cliff. Though the years passed without reunion, Li Zhenzhen never fully stilled her feelings for Tianying, the man who pulled her back from despair and urged her to fight for her own life. Thus, when he appeared again 3 years ago and asked a favor of her, to prevent Qinghe patriots from killing the Khitan envoy passing through the region for the sake of a larger plan, she recognized him immediately and agreed without hesitation. Tianying did not recognize her. Surprised by her ready consent, he asked whether what she demanded in return was a pair of eyes that would allow her to see the world for herself. She offered no explanation, leaving him convinced that his guesses were correct, and added only one further request, that she be allowed to follow him afterward to a place called Breeze Post in the southern Tang, for she feared for his safety should he venture alone into enemy territory. But she never had the chance. When Feng Nengzi learned that Li Zhenzhen had confronted and killed those who sought to ambush the Khitan envoy in Qinghe, he came to believe, falsely, that his friend had allied herself with the Khitans. Disappointed and enraged, he revealed the maps and diagrams of Li Zhenzhen's hidden dwelling, aiding those who sought revenge against the lunar goddess in navigating her refuge. Just as Li finished packing her belongings, preparing to meet Tianying, they broke into her cavern. After a fierce battle, none survived. Before her death, Li Zhenzhen staggered into an elaborate wedding dress, the very garment that had once marked her as property to be sold, now reclaimed as an expression of her own will, hoping that Tianying might recognize her through it. In her final moments, she left him a brief note, telling him that she had already fulfilled her promise, but could no longer follow him to Breeze Post, that he should not waste the blood she had spilled, and that their fates had long since been entwined. The note ends simply and restrainedly with a single thank you. Since Li Zhenzhen had already died 3 years earlier, the payment sent to unfated Tian for the eye-changing surgery could only have come from Tianying, who wished to honor his promise to Li even after learning of her death. Yet Li Zhenzhen had never regarded her blindness as a lack. Her spirit rests in peace only when you place a moonlit flower in her hand, something that renders anyone who touches it temporarily blind, and that mirrors her own fate. Unfated Tian remarks as she walks away that it is better not to be as unyielding as either Li Zhenzhen or Tianying, a comment that seems to address both you and herself. A woman who lived her life as a man, forever guarding affections that could neither be fulfilled nor forgotten. You recall the note you found at the Evercare clinic, and later in the Still Shore, in which she describes herself as the water lady's boatman, performing face-changing surgeries to ferry others across. A subtle feeling stirs in your heart. These images, in turn, lead back to the deeper implications of the Still Shore, whose original Chinese name is Ruo Shui An, the shore of Ruo Shui, literally feeble water. Ruo Shui denotes a river, likely a fusion of history and myth, whose peculiar nature was said to render it incapable of bearing boats, and which was believed to lie somewhere in the northwest. According to the classic of mountains and seas, Ruo Shui rises here and flows westward to join the Luo River. It is from this mythological tradition that Han Xiangshun's codename, the Water Lady, is derived. In Chinese, it corresponds to Luo Shen, the goddess of the Luo River, a mythological figure identified as Fu Fei, who perished in the river and was transformed into a divine being. This figure later becomes an emblem of sublime beauty in Cao Zhi's ode to the goddess of the Luo River. In this sense, Luo Shen may be understood as loosely analogous to Venus, though the beauty she embodies is less destructive and more distinctly Platonic. After the classic of mountains and seas, the connotations of Ruo Shui evolve further. In Sima Qian's records of the Grand Historian, Ruo Shui comes to signify the boundary between mortals and gods. Over time, it accrues additional symbolic meanings, an unbridgeable distance, a barrier separating lovers, or separating one from one's ideals. And, in much later usage, the image of a dazzling world of temptations that draws one away from the person one truly loves. Seen in this light, the name Still Shore functions as an allusion not only to the unbridgeable gap between unfated Tian and Han Xiangshun, but also to the fate of the faceless figures, who are forever severed from their former lives and identities. It further recalls Han Xiangshun's love story with Chu Qingxuan, for Qingxuan, clear spring, stands in contrast to Ruo Shui, evoking a purity and immediacy that can never be reached. You now learn from Li Zhenzhen's Jianghu legacy that Tianying had indeed been to Breeze Post in the southern Tang in 959, where he was ensnared within the same year, an outcome later confirmed by the letter you discovered at the beginning of the game, beseeching Uncle Jiang's aid in extricating Tianying from danger. What Tianying was truly entangled in is further illuminated by a strange incident you once encountered beside the well at the general's shrine. There, a man named Li Hua confides that he personally witnessed Tianying sever the head of the Khitan envoy at Breeze Post. Horrified by the bloodshed and fearing interrogation by investigators dispatched in pursuit of those involved, Li Hua fled north without pause to Qinghe. Thereafter, he lived concealed within the waterways beneath the wells, avoiding all notice. You resolve to help him begin anew. Yet Li Hua harbors a darker design, to take your life, assume your identity, and use your body to mislead those hunting him, unaware that you yourself are well versed in the martial arts. Fate intervenes cruelly. A local street ruffian, mistaking the two of you for conspirators guarding hidden treasure, approaches Li Hua while ordering his younger brother to keep you occupied. A fatal misjudgment that ultimately costs him his life. Li Hua's recounting of the events at Breeze Post is derived from records attributed to the 12th century poet and scholar Lu Yu on the history of the southern Tang, which state the following. In the 12th year of Baoda, 954 CE, a member of the Shulu clan of the Liao sent his uncle as an envoy to Breeze Post. While a night banquet was underway, the envoy rose to change his garments and suddenly collapsed to the ground. Upon inspection, his head was found severed from his body. Rich rewards were proclaimed for the capture of the assassin, yet none was discovered. And only after a long time was it learned that the deed had been contrived by Jianghu, a general of the later Zhou. Learning that a Khitan envoy was soon to arrive, Jianghu devised a further stratagem, seeking through covert assassination to disrupt the Khitan's alliance with the southern Tang. He issued an order declaring that whoever could obtain the pillow from beside his couch would be rewarded with 300 strings of cash. Before long, a swordsman named Tianying succeeded in doing so, and the reward was paid in full. Jianghu then dismissed his attendants, summoned Tianying in secret, and said, "If you can obtain the head of the Khitan envoy to the southern Tang, I shall reward you with 3,000 strings of cash." Tianying accomplished this as well, and from that point onward, relations between the Tang and the Khitans were severed. A major difference between the law and the historical record is that Lu Yu dates the incident to 954 CE, rather than the game's chosen date of 959 CE. Both dates are supported by more than one historical source. The game's preference for the later date is likely deliberate, as other historical records indicate that diplomatic relations between the southern Tang and the Khitan ceased only from 959 onward. As for the backdrop of the Breeze Post incident, clues may be traced both through historical record and through what you uncover on the lowest floor of the Palace of Annals. It was an age of fractured realms and ceaseless warfare, when every state sought a path toward reunification, and the southern Tang was no exception. Yet standing between Jiangnan and the Khitan were the later Jin, and later the later Han and the later Zhou, an immovable barrier, all the more formidable after Chairong ascended the later Zhou throne in 954. The Khitan, too, nursed ambitions of a southern empire. Shared desire bred cautious courtship. As early as 938, shortly after Shi Jingtang of the later Jin ceded the 16 prefectures of Yanyun, the two states began exchanging envoys. 2 decades later, Chairong's campaigns in 958 drove the southern Tang south of the Yangtze, and Li Jing, the southern Tang sovereign, turned with renewed urgency to the Khitan, seeking leverage through alliance. The following year, the Khitan faced the same danger. Chairong's armies surged north to reclaim Yanyun, seizing 3 prefectures and 3 strategic passes in barely 40 days. Then, fortune turned. Chairong's sudden death shattered the later Zhou's momentum and opened a perilous void. In the game's lore, it is to forestall a joint advance by the Khitan and the southern Tang that the Hanging Blade, rather than the historical figure Jianghu, chooses a quieter stroke, to spill a Khitan envoy's blood on southern Tang soil and sever the alliance before it can harden. The lore adds a further twist by introducing Li Zhenzhen and the Aureate Pavilion, which rises to dominance within the southern Tang court in the wake of the assassination. Some questions had found their answers. Many more remained shrouded. Where had Tianying gone after the Breeze Post incident? What designs did the Oriat Pavilion now pursue in Qinghe? What was the secret of Uncle Jiang that Chu Qingxuan had ordered Yi Dao to carry away? And who was the man surnamed Wei who sent Uncle Jiang that letter? For now, you choose to pause, as there is still time yet before your tale in Qinghe reaches its inevitable end.